Hi everyone, it's Andrew. We've got some seagulls outside that are interrupting our recording. A recording that I'm making from the inside of the truck. Now guys, when you see me shooting from the inside of the truck, it means I'm either in a hurry or I am trying to get in out of the wind. And while I've been avoiding these recordings of late, because I wouldn't want you to think any less of our weather patterns here, today I thought it was rather appropriate because, as you'll see over my shoulder, we're in Gander. All right, Gander is an inland town. Gander is an aviation town. No kidding. We got a Hudson bomber behind us. Gander was chosen specifically during the Second World War, and in fact, leading up to the Second World War, our airplane technologies had changed, and we were getting closer and closer and closer to actually realizing a point where we could have transatlantic traffic. But in order to make the crossing, right, again, despite the advancements in technology, we still hadn't created, designed, built a plane that could cross the ocean. The beautiful thing about that period in our history was that while we didn't have those planes, we certainly had faith in our ability to develop them. So much faith, in fact, that this airport, right, Gander is an airport town. It's the Crossroads of the world. The airport was built here, was actually selected in 1938. 1938, that's the year before the war starts, because we really believe that it would soon, even without the assistance of the war, and God help us, right? I know Hemingway said I hadn't had so much fun since the war, right? There's not much good that can be said about war, except, well, the fun and the advancements that we get in technology. The Canadian government actually were the ones that decided that we were going to need an airfield in Newfoundland. Again, the technology hadn't advanced, our planes didn't have the range. We needed to have a place to refuel before we made that hop across the Atlantic. Newfoundland's weather, look, we're an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Most of our communities are located on the coastal area. We're a fishing people. But on the coast is where we get the most tumultuous weather. Remember, we've said in videos in the past, this is where the Gulf Stream meets the Labrador Current. This convergence of energy creates mad weather systems. Mad weather systems. And as a result, it would, obviously that doesn't work very well with flight, landing, taking off. So they decided that they needed to build a town and an airstrip somewhere in the interior of the island. It had to be flat. It had to have a lake, a sizable lake, located nearby. Because again, you have to remember, a lot of our planes in those days were flying boats. They used to land on their bellies as opposed to using wheel technology. Gander was chosen as well because even on a bad weather day, and guys, I've just driven across the island and it's been challenging, right? Here I am in Gander, and it's cleared up enough that we have enough, we can do visual landings, right? Stephenville is for the same reason. Stephenville boasts 360 visual landing days out of a year. Gander would be very similar. Now, the reason that I've chosen to park here specifically, this plane behind us, this is a Hudson bomber. It's only one of 7 Hudson bombers in the world. And this was the very first airplane that could reliably cross the Atlantic. When they took off, you were pretty certain that they were going to they were going to complete their flight. The Hudson bomber in the background is one of 7 in the world. They say there's a lot of them out in the lake, right? Again, you have to remember, this is at the infancy of aviation. So yes, there were risks, right? There were risks, though, that we were perhaps not only willing, but forced to assume, right? There was a war, right? A terrible war that was being fought. A war that we should always remember, especially in times like this when we become so polarized in our thinking. You often heard me quote this social dilemma, right? And the world of affirmation where everybody thinks they're right. It's important for us to reflect on where things can go wrong when everybody thinks they're right. It's also important for us to remember and have faith in our technology, whether it's in this pandemic, right? Whether it's when we're talking about the environment, whether it's talking about autonomous vehicles, right? There's one of the beautiful things about Newfoundlanders is we've seen so many advancements in technology that we've kind of come to expect that things are always going to get better. I'm hoping by watching this today that you'll feel a little closer to that yourself. I'd also like to remind you of the importance of Gander. We call it the Crossroads of the world. Almost every flight, anybody of my age or older will certainly remember that a transatlantic flight required a stop in Gander. But as well, during the war, this airfield was terribly significant. This is where planes, this is where equipment, this is where men, this is where we made a huge transfer over to Europe in order to, for most particularly, for England to be able to help defend herself and the free world. We remember before 1939, right, a country's military might was determined by its navy, by its naval power. But in 1939, that focus shifted. It went from the sea and it pointed to the sky. Now it was all about aviation. And while we saw the Germans roll through Europe, crush Eastern Europe, march on Russia, bomb the living heck out of England, right? America stood by until 1941. Because with that shift, that focus to the sky, that shift of military might, all of a sudden, an invasion of North America became a reality. But it couldn't be completed without a midway. And that midway, of course, was Gander. Gander in Newfoundland. Guys, I hope you're appreciating these videos. I hope you're enjoying your time with us. I am the Urban Bayman, and I'm hoping that you're going to subscribe to our YouTube page. Thanks for watching.